All right, call it the meeting to order at 5:45 p.m. Roll call.
All right, we have Chair Martin Gilmore.
Here.
Vice Chair Kyle Conrad. Here. City Council Member Lucia Present. We have Erica Crystal. Here. Carolina Johnson is attending.
Here.
Jennifer Bartlett.
Here.
Luisa Alvarez. Here. And Stacy Potash, who is not here. All right, and staff present, we have from the Communications Department, Communications Director Chris Harguth. Web and Digital Content Strategist Luisa Magnuson. Here. Marketing Manager Vanessa Davis. Present. And Visual Communication Specialist Andrew Moeller. Present.
Great. Let's move on to the approval of the minutes from last meeting.
Move to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Have a second.
I can second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? All right, move on. No public comment today. Did I see?
No public comment, right?
No.
Okay. On to new business. Second floor murals is Lindsey.
So we had a misunderstanding about when Lindsey was going to present.
Okay.
So she's actually going to present at the July meeting.
Okay.
So I apologize that
That's okay.
that's a little error.
Ahead.
Yeah, I would add that they expect to be able to start installs shortly after that meeting.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
20 days.
Great. Sounds good. Great. Let's go on to the second item, item B, the art pricing policy.
Yeah, so I wanted to make some pricing policies for us so we had something to look back on as we're moving forward with these projects, just making sure that everything is consistent, artists are getting paid consistently, and we have like a set price point when we're planning out our budget for each year. So I did 3 of them. So I did creative crosswalks, traffic cabinet wraps, and murals. With that, everything is similar with creative crosswalks and traffic signal wraps and how we have been doing it. So I have the purpose of why we're establishing this framework, why we have this policy in place, making sure that artists are fairly compensated, promoting transparency when we are pricing things out, maximize the value of public art investments, provide a flexible framework that can be adapted to each project. Scope, the policy applies to creative crosswalks commissioned by the City of Englewood, including those funded by the Wraps and Crosswalks Fund. Pricing, selected artists will receive $500 for their selected artwork that will be featured on a crosswalk in the City of Englewood. So I modeled it off of the traffic cabinet wraps, just so we had a baseline for that, and we have been giving the artists $500 for their selected artwork for the traffic cabinet wraps. So in terms of the process, so project budget, City of Englewood will establish a project budget for each crosswalk submission call, if we can. And that's where I'll get further into the agenda. Artwork review, artists will submit their artwork to the city. The selection committee and public works staff will review the artwork, select the number of artists based off of the designated project budget, and then each selected artist will receive $500 for their artwork. Artist selection, Cultural Arts Commission staff liaison will reach out to the selected artist to inform them of their selection, and they will ask the artist for their W-9 in order to start processing their artist fee. And then payment schedule, because we've kind of done it a little bit different with wraps and crosswalks, is having it right when their artwork is installed. So after it's installed, we'll pay them. And this is a question mark because I'm not sure what the commission wants to do in terms of that payment schedule, but I just established that because that's what we did the last time with traffic cabinet wraps. So, oh my gosh, I went way too far. Selection process, the selection process will involve a call for artists, review the artwork by the committee and the Public Works Department. Committee will select the number of artists based on the budget. Selected artists will receive their $500. So that's what I have for Crosswalks. Main questions I have, when will they get paid? Is that okay? Are we okay with it right after being installed? Is $500 still good for payment fee?
I guess the assumption is then, after the artwork is decided on, that it will already have passed through Public Works and we will know it will be installed. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I think the only thing about not paying them until after it's installed is if there's a problem with it being installed.
Yeah, exactly.
And after we select the artist, what's the time frame of it being installed?
Yeah.
It's been around 2 months. Yeah.
We would openly, transparently give them that information so they know that it may be 2 to whatever months if
Yeah.
everything goes smoothly.
Yes, exactly. And this is where like it's really helpful to have like this policy in place, because then I can like, okay, as part of our policy, like here's the schedule that will look, what it will look like for you as the artist that's selected.
Is that enough money to pay an artist to decide these things?
This is where I've been like browsing on Cafe and it is really difficult to get a set answer for that because it's kind of all over the board in terms of like artist payments.
I will say, just having been in Estes recently and looking downtown at Littleton at our wraps are at such a high quality for the artwork. Especially because we are having professional artists do them or up and coming artists do them versus like, I think Littleton, obviously, I think they maybe did a kid call or some, I don't know. They look so different. I kind of wonder if we do need to up that a little bit.
I think
for some
there's
of the
more
quality.
students.
Yeah, it looks like student artwork. Ours is just so beautiful. I just, I'm very proud of them and I want to make sure we're paying a fair wage, but.
Yeah, and we also have this fund, the Wraps and Crosswalks Fund too, so it's not directly coming out of the 1%, it's coming out of the separate funds. So.
Looking at the price point, what feels fair is, you know, if it's just a design, 500 is a great starting point. I think what would also add value to the 500 is possibly providing templates or sizes and dimensions. So that way it'll take a little bit of the lift of the concept building and brainstorming, and that could also validate the 500 to start off with. As in, is it the right price? Every artist will be different, and so if the artist sees value in it, I believe it's a great starting point, and then if we see any resistance, then we could adjust accordingly.
How much are we paying for them actually to be printed and installed?
It's like a range between like 15,000 and 100,000.
So, yes, I mean, if we're paying that much for people to print, install and all of that, and we're giving such a small amount to the artist who actually created it, I think that there might need to be some sort of balance between those, because that to me feels very low, but it also feels like 15,000 is extremely high.
And that's for the most basic design.
Yes, exactly. So it just kind of feels like maybe we could have some sort of range depending on like the colors or like how much, I don't know.
Oh, well, I think we have to restrict that, right? Because it has to be restricted to really being a very specific color palette, because otherwise the cost is gonna be out of control. Like we've got to bring these in at under 30,000, I think we decided.
Are we talking about just crosswalks?
Just crosswalks.
Just
Oh, okay.
crosswalks. So like Lucia's been working to, it was kind of like maybe your comments to like work with to find out information about, can we reuse the stamp? Is it less if it's less colors? Because I think that, to your point, can help frame it, because if they are being requested to make a more simplistic design, that changes the pricing that they're getting versus if someone is like hand drawing this beautiful elaborate thing, of course, that is, but if we're asking for very basic, like, you need to like create one design that we then, that's like replicated,
Yeah.
then I think 500 makes more
And you're-
sense, but we haven't been able, Lucia's tried really hard.
Tried very
Yeah.
hard.
This is always the question of where do we go?
And also, if we are thinking about, like, if it is less expensive to do it 2 times, are we only paying the artist for their art the 1 time? Or is it like, well, since it's now in multiple places, you get a residual, like, additional fee or something, like half the price or something? Could be interesting as well. Yeah. Just a
I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to that number. I just, if we see that number and then, you know, the installation cost is so high, I don't want us to look like we're cheating artists, you know, because we don't want to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Is there an opportunity, this may be too complicated, so just a thought process. If the artist itself can install it, if there's a different price point, and then if you can't, then this is your starting pay point for the design.
They can't install it themselves because it's like, it has to be a specific public works type of durable paint.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Well, and I wonder if we also maybe look at it, I guess my wheels are turning right now, but if we end up using the stamp, let's say 7 times, let's say we decide on the stamp and it is more cost effective to do the stamp, then do we up it, like give the artist a certain percentage for every time we're using that stamp again? If it brings down the cost significantly to create the stamp and actually do it, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we could up a little bit of what we give the artist because we're gonna print it 7 times. So we'd pay a little bit more than 500 or pay per stamp, but that would go more towards the artist since it brought down the cost for the stamp, hopefully. If
Well-
any of my hopeful thinking
No,
works.
yeah, I mean, I can lead into this. There is no stamp process.
Okay.
That they have established. It's basically like, it's the same thing over again. So if we're printing out a design, on this like vinyl that they heat to the floor, they have to just redo that entire process.
So it doesn't save us any money to redo it or to do similar, okay, that is a really big bummer.
So for instance, on the spoon and fork crosswalk, it was 10,000 to refurbish what's there and 12,000 to just redo it. So,
Yeah, so it's like piecing it together, it would be like a little cheaper.
yeah, I think that the extra 2,000 would be a little bit of work and car to grab, but
Question.
Mhm.
Those, right now, the new, like the little bike path prints, how were those done?
which ones?
Over by the Fork and Spoon, when you go around the corner behind those apartments?
like the green.
By just Sherwin?
There's,
Yeah, like, you know how they put in the new, it looks like fish are swimming? What was that done from? Maybe I know, okay, I'll take a picture.
Okay.
I do have maybe possibly a way that we could look at it. So if you're looking at it from hourly, right?
Yeah.
If you divide it by how many hours it takes to install it, and then the difficult part is assuming how many hours it takes for an artist to do that piece of artwork.
Yeah.
But maybe we could balance those percentages that way. So let's find, do we know how long it takes to install
I
it?
don't, but I can find out.
Because that could help us.
I mean, because a lot of this is just like the setting up the machining and materials and all that. In terms of the design, I mean, it's, could an artist feasibly design something like that in a day? Probably.
Yeah.
$500 for a day, that's pretty good.
And I think most artists are constantly aiming to be as quick as possible, as much as they can, so it's something that we could just possibly put with, you know, what we're expecting out of the artwork that
Yeah.
can help guide it.
Okay.
What if, yeah, and if there's no stamped process, I don't know that I feel like if we use their same design again, we shouldn't have to pay $500 to them again. I don't think. Maybe there's some kind of residual cost or something where we could pay 10% of that. That's $50 for every time it's installed as an extra.
But it sounds like it's not even worth considering that because it doesn't actually save us any money.
Yeah.
I only was looking into it because I was like, oh, maybe if we redo this stamp, then we have a really cool design and we can redo it, and if they
But
need
it
to be
would-
repaired, we have it and it's quick.
If we did that, it would save us money on this. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? So, but not that significant.
Yeah. And theoretically, if it's a cheaper design, where we're like, oh, that was like not that bad, let's put it in other places. But it would still be the same it wouldn't be cheaper.
Yeah, it would be cheaper,
But we
Just
know
for
it's
the
like a
artist.
cheaper design.
but, right, yeah, we know how much it's, we know the price tag.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I do, like, if we do replicate, there is some fairness in, you know, if you're gonna use it multiple times and getting a little bit more bang out of your buck, then an artist should be compensated some way. Maybe not the exact amount, but a percentage of that residual.
Yeah, we did do that with the neighborhood map, because we had hired an artist to create that.
Yeah.
And so we put it on some bags, but then when we created a mural on Frame de Art, we paid a royalty to do that. So, but I think that was in his contract.
Yes.
Just have them change it too, I think.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily opposed to this amount of money, but I just wanted to ask the question.
Okay. So should I keep 500 or should I look into the percentage?
I feel that 500 with some value of like some tools for them to start off with is a great starting point.
Okay.
And I still believe before we announce that and share that, we should look at the hourly percentage to see if there's
Okay.
like a huge disparity in that. Because I've been trained after many years of practicing to execute something fairly quickly.
That's a good way to figure out what are the materials costs and what are the hour costs for installation. Okay.
Well, and then obviously when we do a call, we probably would double check that we're still within market value because things do evolve,
Right.
Yeah.
whether we like it or not. Like this 500 might be reasonable today and not reasonable in 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
And we could help save them time by providing them like the templates and criteria, which will minimize the brainstorming process that some people could fall into, could fall in.
Cool.
Yeah, so right now we'll look into the materials cost versus the hourly percentages. I'm going to look into template sizing dimensions to provide to the artist. I'm gonna look into how long it takes to install a crosswalk in general. Also, I wanna address replication of an artwork and how that would play out.
Especially if it gets damaged.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And then I also am going to add basically a policy maintenance schedule.
Okay.
And I think on our end, for all our artwork, we should always be having template design measurements
Yes,
criteria as part of our.
absolutely. Okay, perfect. With this, it's going to be basically the same for traffic cabinet wraps. So I don't know how you guys want to play into traffic cabinet wraps and that $500 artist fee.
Okay, and sorry, this was the one I was thinking more seriously about when I said the 500 because ours are really beautiful. I don't know, just having looked around other cities recently, I'm like, oh, a lot of groups have clearly student campaigns that have been doing all their traffic wraps and we have real art.
Yeah.
Is this what we've been doing the last year? So
Yes, this is what we've been doing.
let's keep it this.
And
Yeah.
what's the fee for this, usually the install fee and all that?
It's roughly, I believe our 3 cabinet wraps were 4,000.
Yeah, 46.35.
There we go, I was close.
Yeah.
And do we know what the going rate is right now in cafe for wraps?
I don't.
I'd just be
I haven't
curious.
seen wraps.
Okay,
It's mainly like, Fort Collins does painted ones, where like the artists actually go out and paint.
which
But I
I like
haven't
the vinyl better. I think ours looks shinier.
Yeah.
And I've noticed, like, when I was up at Estes, theirs are aging very quickly because they're just, the weather is doing damage to the paint.
Yeah,
And I'm fine keeping it at 500. I'd just be curious if that's like the going rate, being how we're doing them. I'm fine with 500. I just want to make sure we're staying up with costs.
yeah, and I haven't found anything similar to what we're doing on Cafe's website. Like it hasn't popped up for me. Just so you know, 1,500 roughly for each traffic cabinet wrap. In that 3rd division that I did on my phone on my calculator.
I'd imagine the install's just way less intensive than
Yes.
And the materials.
Then,
Yes.
yes, the materials for
But
sure.
the design might be a little bit more complicated if people aren't utilizing the template and like really like placing things. So I am also curious between like what we have done in the past when people didn't have the template and somebody had to then take that and actually make it into
We
something
had a
that, like,
template
worked.
for a moment. There was
Oh,
a
we did.
template for a
Okay.
couple rounds and then somehow it didn't get on one of the
Okay. I thought we
calls.
hadn't had it
We didn't have it on the,
on the last
yeah.
two times ago.
Yeah.
I sort of,
So,
I sort of feel like Cafe will tell us, like, if we're not paying enough, we won't get any submissions, or we'll get submissions.
Well, we
through
don't do
Gilmore.
the wraps through Cafe though, right?
I
No,
don't-
we
I
do
don't
those
think
through
we
Englewood.
have.
No, because
But-
we've been trying to get local.
But we've gotten good submissions, and we've gotten artwork that we like. So I think that, like, if we weren't paying enough, then that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
I think
guess.
it's good. I'm just curious whose job it is to like, whose job it has been to template it and make sure that it fits and everything, because now it's on the artist. So before it was like, the artist had a little bit less work potentially, then now it's a little bit more intensive, but also probably better for them. So just curious.
No,
I
I
think
do
we
think
probably
we
just
need
sent it to the company and the
Okay, and
company
they
just
just
put
did
it
it.
wherever.
Yeah.
I see.
I did ask about this because I had a resident inquire about painting a traffic cabinet, and they don't allow painting, or our public works department won't allow painting. But they asked for a template so that they can like work on a design with their neighbors
Cool.
for like a specific traffic cabinet. And so I asked if there was a template, and they just said, a rectangle.
Not really.
But I'm gonna try to get something a little bit better than
Because we
that.
wanted one, I thought we had one, or we recommended one with the cutouts so that they know where to
Yeah,
place,
where the,
especially
like,
after the
the
Oxford
font
one, we
ends
want to
are.
make sure that they know
And
where
I thought
everything
that
is.
last one, I thought it had that.
It was overlaid on it, I thought.
The problem is what they considered to be the front of the cabinet meant where the handle is,
Oh.
and not facing traffic with the
Yeah.
most impact on the art, so. And we've worked, Harmonic Media installs those for us, and we've had that conversation with them, and they understand moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, my last thing, and I hope we have time, is murals. And I specifically wanted to talk about murals because we have the mural potential location list, which we have 3 businesses who have signed up wanting a mural on their business, which is great. But I do want us to like see how much a mural would cost on there. So like having this pricing policy is going to be really helpful in terms of just us planning our budget and seeing what we can realistically provide in terms of cost of a mural. I went on the high end at $40 a square foot. And from what I've seen, just so you have a frame of reference, Littleton has a mural, a call for a mural right now. It's around 100 feet wide. They're charging $11 a square foot.
So 40 is generous.
Yeah, it's the high end. It's the highest end. And then Fort Collins Mural Project, they have their own artist network, so it's $7.50 a square foot. So 40 is definitely high.
Do you feel like it's too high based on knowing both those towns are 11 to 7?
Yeah, I would say it's too high specifically because I'm worried that it's gonna limit us in having murals.
Yeah.
Like, it's just gonna be absolutely crazy. Like, we priced out the Malley mural with this formula, and it was $36,000 for that Malley mural.
Granted, the Malley mural it wasn't like completely filled in,
Yes.
just something else.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
yeah, so if Littleton's paying $11, we could pay $20 and still be like paying a super good amount, I would think.
Well, or maybe we put a scale on there of saying we're gonna look between, 15 to 40, depending on the submission. When we do the call, we could have a sliding, range.
That sounds like it would be hard to decide.
I know, that's
Yeah,
where I get nervous.
subjective.
Yeah,
And 40, we'll almost never be able to afford it.
Yeah.
It would
It's
be
just
the
gonna be
whole
really
budget, it
difficult.
would be one thing. And if you guys want to do that, that is absolutely you guys' decision. But something to think about, if that is what we're pricing, that's one mural, that's basically your budget for the year.
So,
Get.
just a clarification on the mural thing. This is for that fund that you're talking about, or is this coming out of our?
It would be ours.
Okay, so one of the things we had discussed in the past is that the commission, I don't think, wants to fund the entire murals, and instead has wanted to just like do like a $1,500 to $2,000 towards people who would want to do murals, and then they could figure out the rest of the budget.
Okay.
And that way, then the commission's not on the hook to maintain the mural, to replace it or anything like that. That was kind of what we had discussed in the past. That could change if people have new opinions, but I don't think we voted on anything like that. But
I think we also wanted a commitment from the business owners too, that they had some, teeth in the game, so to speak.
It just allowed us to like kind of spread it out, because even if the mural is $10,000, like we wouldn't be able to fund all the murals in town.
Exactly.
And, so this gives us a chance to like give funding to more of those mural type projects. That's kind of what we had talked about in the past. I don't mind having this so as a guideline of here's what murals should cost and what you should be asking for, but I don't know if that's a lightning strike right.
I have a two-part follow-up and then a question. So my question to y'all is, based on the research that you've done, what's your recommendation on a cost that would be reasonable for us to produce as many murals as we can?
My recommendation, to make it so that we could fund fully murals, this is where it wouldn't take into account the $1,500 to $2,000 per mural. But if we were to fully fund murals, I would do like 12 to 15.
Okay.
I know.
And my next follow-up to this is in regards to something I touched on last time, which I fumbled on because I forgot the words, but quality and quantity, right? And I don't want to use quality in a way that could be interpreted in a malice way. But when we're looking at quantity, we have some impact, right? And we could kind of measure our expectations of what we want from the artwork, which will help us bring that price down a little bit. To where I myself as an artist would feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Because I have been seeing murals just like everywhere in the U.S. right now. Like people love them, they want them, and they're paying high price for it.
Yeah.
While still getting artists in and then paying them equitably. So I guess my question to everyone is, have we had a discussion about, do we want to move fast? And do we want more for impact, or are we looking for the quality of the artwork that truly represents what we're trying to accomplish?
Well, and can I add to that? Because I think another piece to consider too is like on Cafe, that is a call for professional artists. So everyone on Cafe, which we have not historically done our mural calls on Cafe, right? So if we're looking at more local emerging artists, we've kind of allowed people to submit design ideas or concepts. They haven't necessarily had to submit a portfolio or had a portfolio to be able to do a mural. And so again, if we're looking at like supporting more local artists and getting a wide range of art, it might be reasonable to go down somewhere between 15 and 20 per square foot. But I do think if there are particular places we want to do a call on Cafe, we have to be honest, that might be 40 per square foot. So I think it might depend on what the call is. But we've always had a goal, I think, with murals of trying to get local Englewood residents or local Denver Metro artists, which I think has been important. Not to say we have to stick with that, but it is nice to, again, gear it for within the community.
Yeah, and this could be more of like a broader conversation as we're talking about art strategy too. Where like we can have more in-depth discussion about murals. So I can like hold this.
Yeah, I think that like the murals go, if it's on a city building, maybe that's different. But if it's going to businesses within the community or things like that, it's sort of different than the light boxes or the crosswalks in terms of the way that it would be funded through us. Because I don't know, 2 years ago, we got a request for like 15 murals that they're all $10,000 each.
Yeah.
There's just no way. So that makes it really hard to figure out like what mural do we put money, or do we fund, do we pay for the whole thing? And what murals do we not pay for any of it? And so just because it's different than the crosswalks, I think that we should deal with it.
And we've also had some artists that Englewood was their first mural, which have been beautiful. And I love that we got some people out there who might have not had that opportunity. And so I don't want to, like, if we get too in the depths of who has murals, who's built a portfolio, we might lose some really amazing folks who could provide a more affordable mural because they're coming out and learning. And so I don't know, I just think that's important to keep in mind too.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think like if a business then would want the mural, they could come to us, we could help them find other sources to figure out, like, here's the cost that it would be to have a mural on your building, here's how much money we could provide, here are other places that might be willing to help you, you could fundraise off of that, get off of other things, and have that done, rather than us putting.
And adding to that, how many submissions do we get, and it'll lead to something that could potentially help?
How many submissions specifically for like an individual mural?
Yeah, like, do we have a lot of artists submitting, or do we have a lack of artists, or are we in a healthy?
It's roughly
selection?
10.
Okay.
In my experience with the Malley mural and the Felt mural. Yeah.
Maybe to ensure that we could produce as many murals as possible, we explore the 12 to 15, maybe $20 range, and then also just add the transparency behind it. The reason we have chosen these prices is because we want to provide as much artwork as possible to Englewood. So there's transparency on why this price was chosen. There's no interpretation for devaluing your work. And if you want to be part of providing art in this space, we'd be happy to accept your application or submission.
Maybe adding, like, you know, we're hopeful, like, if you're a business, that you would create a match with it so you could get the full mural you want, with the typical range being around 10 to 20,000, but we can, you know, or 5 to 10. We'll provide 5 if, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'm just wondering if we need this for the mural thing. I understand it for the other stuff, but do we really need to figure out what this is for the murals if we're gonna, I feel like the murals, you could go like off of a project basis, and the business says we want a mural, we have this size of wall, it's gonna cost, we have this much money to pay. We can get together $8,000, and then they find somebody who makes a mural that they like, and we just contribute to them. I'm just wondering if we need this guideline.
Well, I'm wondering if you want to go with the approach of we're funding $1,500 to $2,000 per mural, then I would put that in there. That way, like, if businesses do come, you have a strict policy of like, okay, we're not like favoring a certain business over the other. And this is like how we would price out a mural, like if they're looking for.
I think to me, that seems like a better situation.
Yeah.
And it's basically first come, first serve, whoever, if we run out of money in that mural fund, then we don't do it.
Yeah, that way it's not playing
Yeah,
favorites.
does that make sense? Just because I think the nature of the murals is sort of different.
Well, and the one thing that does, just historically, is like the criteria varies depending on the business, you know, so we end up kind of accommodating some of the business's requests along with accommodating some of our requests, right? So it ends up being a partnership.
Yes, exactly. Okay, sounds good.
Would this just be for businesses, or would this also be like if Malley needed another mural, say, or something ever like that? Like, would we have a different policy for city buildings? Like, because what Lindsey is gonna talk about, I think we funded a lot more than the 2,000.
In which case, I think that that policy is relevant to that, but needs to be specifically for the city stuff. That makes sense, that people can't come and just ask for that for their business, that's just for the city. I think that's.
And then do they have a strict pricing point that we cut it off at for the city?
I can see that.
Okay.
In which case, I don't know that we need to have 40, but just arbitrarily 20.
Yeah.
We'll just cut that in half, because that puts us in that zone. If you priced out that mural and it would be, what'd you say, 38,000 or whatever, and it's half of that, that's kind of in the zone of what we were thinking for murals. That's just me, spitball numbers.
Okay. So business policy, 1,500, 2,000, separate city policy with strict pricing, roughly $20 a mural. $20 a mural, $20 a square foot.
As of right, again, as of the pricing right now, currently.
Yeah, let's not.
Marinate on it,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I have written down, and then I'll make adjustments.
And I think we should include in there, like, we know that the pricing in Colorado has been 7 to 11 per square foot, but on cafe is 40, and so we came to this place where we feel like this is a fair compromise of pricing.
But yeah, still supporting our artists.
Like supporting our artists, paying them a fair wage.
yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Perfect. Okay, sounds good. Sorry
Thanks.
that like
No, that's okay.
kind of went over. It did go on.
That's
No, I
okay.
really appreciate that you're putting this together, because I think sometimes we've kind of
Yeah,
walked our way through it without that form or parameters around it. I think this really helps us, guide us as we make these decisions. So I very much appreciate your hard work on
Yes.
it.
okay, good. I'm glad. I just like want to make sure we're like treating everything fairly. We have something to fall back on and be like, I don't know, 12,000?
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other partner we could be asking for some of these too is we do have Redline here, and they are an
Yes.
excellent source of knowing the market more intimately in Denver. And so I think when we're having questions, we should be going to them too.
Yeah.
For Colorado, because again, cafes nationwide, and they're more the heartbeat of what's happening here in Denver Metro.
And lastly, on those policies, I did see that we have a portfolio submission, and where I completely agree with that, because there are a lot of artists that already have that. I want to make sure that we're ready for a pathway for those that may not have a portfolio, so they could still submit with one photo, and then possibly through Redline, if they're willing to be partners, possibly if that artist isn't ready to do a mural, maybe Redline could help partner them with someone that could be their mentor to kind of build them. So we're providing a pathway for equitable representation for those that may not have the resources or the knowledge to go through the path. And lastly, like a one-on-one on W9s. I think about like little 18-year-old Luisa that didn't have any resources.
I know.
So just giving
Yeah.
them those basic
Walk through.
things, yeah. And then they can figure it out on their own, obviously, but just providing them the context of maybe they're not walking around like, what's a W9?
Here's the
Well,
link.
And again, like Redline does do those education classes, and I wonder, like, even if we have a link from the Cultural Arts Commission to Redline, to like telling them and also linking them with the resources.
Yeah, I love that. I'll make sure to reach out to Redline about this and gather some more information about them, and like maybe have a future meeting where they come in and we can talk about partnerships.
And it was even like 2 years ago when they first talked about going in, one of their concepts was that they wanted to provide more education for local artists. And I still think that would be so cool, even if they need a little help. Like, I think they were like, we might need some funding help. But again, if we're like supporting folks in Englewood learning how to walk through this kind of, all the government stuff.
Yeah,
Cool.
I love that.
All right, let's move on to the Block Party Interactive Art Booth, which was awesome.
Okay, well, we did this Celebrate Englewood button making, which was really
Well, that's what I meant,
successful.
sorry.
No, you're good. There's just so many events. It was super successful. Everyone had a great time.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of great feedback, mainly parents being like, I want to get that for my kid. For the block party, we have some options. So B Hotel, which was suggested last time by Kyle. So we have, I just looked up some like artistic bee hotels. I could not find the picture of the Botanic Garden.
But you know what I'm talking
I
about?
do, I
The
do.
lawn, it's beautiful.
And I swore I took a picture of it the last time I was there and I could not find it on my phone. So there is this option. The only downside with this is with the city, we can't place it at any parks. Because of, the legal requirements, if someone gets stung. Legal, what am I trying to say? Liability, thank you. So that's the only hiccup where even if we do it, I don't know where we'd put
But I
it.
kind of loved your poem idea.
Yeah, so I also
And
have,
I also thought like it would be so cool to turn that into a mural.
yeah,
Like have a poem written for Englewood and then you could put it on a side of a wall.
yeah.
I don't know.
We could do that. I also thought I was in Fort Collins for Mother's Day, and there was someone who was doing poems for strangers, they like write a poem based off of a topic that you give them. And I've seen this all on social media too. I could reach out to her to see if she wanted to be at the block party. The other one is the paint by number idea, having some type of standalone interactive activity. The community paints it and then we can put it out in the atrium over there. So we have some artwork out there for anyone who comes to visit.
The poems would just be for individual people who show up and want to
Yeah.
get a poem.
Well, I kind of love, I don't know if you meant this, but I loved your idea when you were like, they could write a poem about Englewood or for Englewood, like have them.
Yeah.
I mean, they could do poems for that, but I was like, that's a really fun idea. Like, what is Englewood, like, have a little poem contest.
Yeah,
Maybe we could
I love
change
that.
the poem.
That'd be cool.
The other idea is do buns.
I think we
Since
could
have
probably
it.
do that anyway.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
We could do the buttons because they were.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that poem idea. What would we do with the poems?
Well, I just like when you said it, I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if they created a poem about Englewood and then you could take that poem, I mean, you don't have to, but you could take it a step further and put it on a building or turn it into a mural, like an interpretation of that poem with it written. And I was like, that could be a really fun multi-year, multi-layered thing,
Or-
interactive piece.
Or I wonder if there's a way we could get like a collage of the poems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Artist.
put it as a display at the library, like it
Yeah,
it could be
display one,
simpler.
and I wonder if we could do it where they could keep the poem and we could just take a picture.
And then like, we could put them all up or,
That'd be cool.
I don't know.
And if they're open to it, you can share it on social media throughout the year.
That would
Yeah.
give us a chance to sort
That would
through
be
the ones
sweet.
that aren't appropriate.
Yeah, here.
We could publish the,
Yeah.
like the top 3 in the Englewood magazine
That'd be
also.
cool.
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
Writers love to see their work published.
Yeah.
That
I'm
was-
wondering if we
No.
can partner with the library with local writers.
They have a creative writing group. Sorry, I didn't mean
They
to
can come and like
offer out
help.
their creative.
Yeah.
They do have one.
So the idea would be they would create, like the community would create poems at the block party, submit them. We'd make an interactive art piece, feature them in the magazine, social media posts.
And I want to say I just was looking at the Student Art League in Englewood.
Yeah.
And they have, you might have looked at this too, Erica. They have like a woman who's taking vintage magazines.
Oh, yeah.
And doing
It's like a
cutouts.
collage.
A collage.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I wonder if
Yeah, I did a mixed media class and it was kind of similar to that. I think that could be fun too if you had other things to add to the potential finished art.
Yeah, reach out to her.
Yeah.
I know, we do have a bunch of Englewood magazines. That we could, like if she, I mean, I can reach out and see if she's interested, how much it would cost to make a final piece.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think it would be fun.
Yeah.
I also like the sorry, Councilwoman. I was saying that you could also pull on your, I thought the paint by number thing was interesting because of how collaborative it is, but you could also do like a collaborative collage where people could add
I think
their
that,
Ooh.
I think the collaborative collage would be better only because the paint by number, I'm just thinking of the paint projects I've done with children
Yeah.
recently. And like for me, that would be a nightmare at the block party.
Yeah.
Like so many people and I don't know, just that controlled chaos and those paints stick. They're not like the wash off of the children who will all be like, you know?
Yeah.
No, I think that's great. So we could do a collaborative collage.
Sorry. I had a booth last year for work, well, not me, but my organization did, and we did use paint and it was okay with kids, surprisingly.
I love the watercolor, but I'm just thinking on a wall, unless it's
It
like,
was on welcome mats.
I mean,
so
like
it's
something on a-
around.
yeah, if it's on the ground and controlled, that's great. But if it's like on a wall, like
The drip.
like the murals we do, they're messy and we get messy and like,
That's totally fair.
and I love being messy, but I have to be prepared to be messy, you know?
Yeah, the only thing I'm thinking through with the collage is scissors.
Oh, fair enough.
I think having
We
people.
could rip
But
it.
you can have
we
kids
could do
scissors,
kid
those kid
scissors.
scissors could be fun.
Yeah, okay. I'm just thinking in the terms of Tamara. What will she allow?
I think you could do it, I think you could do it on like poster board in small sections and people put stuff on and then you just
I think that would be great. Do we still want to do the poetry contest?
I think we can do the poetry thing too for the adults and that. And
Okay.
figure out maybe there's a way we can get them all.
But maybe
Okay.
we could even see if the student art lead, if their gal wants to run it, or maybe
Okay.
help us with it, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll
I
find
think
the
glue
name
sticks
of the
and
person.
children's scissors and magazines.
It looked
Okay.
like.
And then maybe if we're doing that, we'll be right next to library. And then we
Yeah.
can have it like a collaboration.
Cool.
That would be fun.
We can do-
Okay, poetry contest, collaborative collage.
Yeah, and then maybe the goal will be that it ends up in the library or something.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Awesome.
I would love that. Okay, beautiful. That is what,
And feature social media too.
yes, exactly, more content.
All right, on to, is that all for item C? On to item D, Englewood Arts Tool.
Yes, so this is a kind of initiative that was brought up by council. Can we get a raise of hands of who knows what e-arts is? No, okay, great. So we're gonna learn a little about e-arts. So e-arts has been a partner with the city, and inside, they're their own organization, but it stands for Englewood Arts.
Oh, I know Englewood Arts. Sorry.
Oh, okay, Englewood, for many, many years. And their focus really is on music education and programming. They host music lessons. We can hear them throughout the building. Is actually quite nice. And they also do different programs for the public, bringing in a variety of different, primarily classical types of music, bringing it. So the contract goes back a very long time, and it currently expires in 2020, at the end of this year. But council has motioned to vote in favor for a 2-year extension versus the 5-year extension. But council is coming to us to look for a tool to see how e-arts could maybe potentially better serve the community and make this a more sound partnership going forward. Because right now, e-arts, they rent our room, but then they can rent it out as well. It's kind of a,
We actually don't rent it,
Oh,
we
they
actually
don't.
let them use it, that's part of the contract. So the way that the city has actually, do you mind if I?
no,
No,
go.
for it.
I was like, I'm just going
No,
from like
you're doing
my
so great.
researching.
You're doing so good. Hampton Hall, on the second floor of this building, if you guys may be familiar with it, part of the contract is that we provide Hampton Hall for them to use, and they have some office space and some rehearsal rooms, and then they are able to then subsequently rent out Hampton Hall to nonprofit groups or other things, and earn a little bit of revenue from that for their operational costs. But then also they can have their performances there, and you can go and you can listen to all sorts of different like classical concerts right here in Englewood all the time if you don't know. And they also then can provide music education to young people in Englewood at a very discounted rate compared to market rate. And so it's kind of this mutually beneficial partnership that the city has been in for I think over 20 years. So that's the nature of the relationship.
Yes. So in doing this, we are looking to create some kind of tool to see if we need, right now, there isn't really a consistent pricing structure. So maybe it's priced per program or per type of program or per hour. That's something that's for you guys to kind of discuss and for us to discuss with you. Participation reporting, in the past, there has not been some consistent reporting, and seeing it could be a little tricky, but potentially trying to report on demographics. And maybe this is something we could use. We use this software called Placer AI that could potentially help to learn, okay, are they under 18 that are attending? Are they over 18? Are they Englewood residents? Are they not Englewood residents? Really just seeing who is currently coming to these programs. And then also the types of categories. As Councilmember Noonan mentioned and I mentioned, there's a lot of classical performances, but there is an opportunity potentially to bring in different types of music, contemporary music, maybe it's beyond music, maybe it's dance, like just a more well-rounded offerings. And then cost per program. Right now, the programs, there's no consistency in pricing. Maybe if it's a matinee, similar to like a music theater program would be. A matinee might be less, a night weekend might be a little bit more. Again, all trying to be very affordable. And then even maybe there are free programs. So those are kind of the priorities in creating this tool. And then next is some of the ranking systems. So the pricing structure for rentals, just trying to get a little more consistency. Maybe it's per hour, just a little bit of something, but also making maybe exceptions for 501c3 or something like that, where they might be entitled to a special kind of discount, even though a lot of this is 501c3, but making sure if it's not, they're maybe paying a little bit more, as that nonprofit status is something that you get and you have to work for. And then types of categories. So again, checking the box, is this not classical? Something like that. Reporting, seeing how many people are coming and making sure that every event that is hosted, we know how many people are there. And then performance measures, just again, making sure the data is there, because when the data is there, then it just provides you as a jumping off point. And then any additional programming requirements. I can share my idea, but we will go with you guys first to see. I know this is a lot of information and it's just kind of, but yeah.
And this is specifically for Englewood Arts,
This is specifically
And-
for Englewood Arts.
and they're a nonprofit, and
Yes.
they have a board and all that stuff. Okay. So we're coming up with bylaws of how they report to the city, is that, or a system of how they report to the city, is that what's being asked?
Correct. How they report and how we interact with them, and something that could also be used in making this partnership go into the future.
Maybe a little more robust.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because right now it's a little more of a, I don't want to call it a handshake agreement. There's definitely a formal agreement, but there's not a lot of necessarily parameters that are required of the
I
agreement.
mean, until I was on the Cultural Arts Commission, I did not know they were here. And really, my only exposure to them at this point is through the school systems, knowing they offer music classes that do seem somewhat challenging to get into once you're in, but getting into them, it kind of seems like that can take a minute.
Okay.
So I do think having some criterias and knowing who they serve, and to be honest, as a resident of Englewood, I go to Denver, Lakewood, and Littleton for all my shows. I have never gone to a show here, if I'm to give honesty. Like, I mostly go at this point over to Belmar because that one's the most kid-friendly theater and they offer theater for kids at a reasonable cost. And then if I feel like getting really fancy, I go to the Denver Performing Arts Center. So it'd be nice to offer more offerings here and to know it, because I think right now I'm like, I don't even think to look, like I get all the newsletters from Belmar. So I'm just giving my honest experience with it.
Yeah.
As someone who cares about the arts, I don't know what they do.
Well, one reason that I think it's helpful for you guys to be involved is, the city is offering this space, which is owned by the citizens. The citizens own this building. This space belongs to the citizens, and so getting your feedback, as well as suggestions for how might we cross-market some of that stuff, or get the word out, or create better collaboration with them. And this seems like the right place to do that.
Because right now, as the communications department, I've never been once asked to do anything for e-arts. I was a resident before and I was an employee. I only found out when they were doing their musical performances, we can hear it in our hall, and it's nice, but I was like, what's happening?
I know.
I was like, are they
someone's
pumping in
blasting.
music on my lunch break? I didn't know.
Besides the space that the city provides, does the city provide them any funding?
I don't believe so.
How are they funded?
Fundraising and ticket sales. They do a mix of, I think they have some free performances, but then they also do ticket sales. So they have string quartets on a regular basis, and Latin concerts and all these kinds of different things. They both do performances and then also the music education. And I will say that in my experience, it is run by a very thoughtful, generous, executive director and board, but maybe not the type of professionals who are going to be marketers and in coalition building and doing that kind of stakeholder outreach, much more focused on the music itself and how they can invest in that.
couple questions. I have so much running through my mind on this, and I'd love to dive into it further, maybe with more time. But are they the only nonprofit that hosts any shows here? So is this solely for them, or is this something that we could explore for other nonprofits to also step into place and also provide maybe the same kind of experience? Number one. Number two, when it comes to performances and type of music, I love classical music, and then I'm also thinking of the range of citizens that we have that may want to try. I don't know, it'd be great to have one of our local businesses do a DJ party, and I would be totally into that. So if they can provide different types of music, that'd be great. Thirdly, so many questions, last one, is are we providing this to support them so they could continue in our partnership because they need the extra help, or have they had these discussions themselves prior to engaging with the council and the CAC?
I don't want to put words in their mouths, but from the council meetings I have watched, they seem to enjoy status quo. They enjoy what they're doing. They're passionate, as Councilmember Lincoln said, they're passionate about the music. And again, not even like being an artist, then it's not necessarily, we don't all have all the skills and marketing. And when you're laser focused in something you love, it can be hard to expand beyond that.
Well, and building a structure from nothing is very difficult.
Yeah. If you've never done it, as we've said, they've been around for 20 plus years. This is a new idea.
So their pricing structure for their performances is also non-existent, is that what you're saying? Or is it mostly just for the rental stuff?
I don't know about the performances, but the rentals is currently at the discretion of the executive director.
Okay.
It's kind of both. Like, there's normally a kind of a range, but it isn't consistent.
Sure. I wonder too, because I feel like most of the time when you go to a show of some kind, you never pay the same exact price no matter where you go, unless you have a membership and there is some sort of like discount situation, because it could be someone who's well known in that field that not very many people who are outside of that field know, but the people who are part of it do. So I would understand that pricing being a lot more. But I also wonder if there's a way to explore some sort of like sliding scale for them to provide tickets for people who maybe not interested in coming to something like that, but would be interested in testing it out, kind of seeing if they like it, but don't really want to like give the 50 or whatever the pricing is, just not sort of something. Yeah.
Are we looking at establishing something about how they run their organization? Is that
right? Is that what we're doing or no?
I think we're looking to create a partnership that just has some accountability around it, since it's the arts of Englewood. And I think right now, like, most residents don't know this organization. I can pretty confidently say that they don't know that we have a performance hall in Englewood. And it would be nice to maybe figure out ways to partner with the city so that we have a more robust performance hall, I think is the goal right now. And to actually ask who are they serving and how many kids are getting served if they're using that space for music rentals. Like, are we serving lots of kids, or are they serving 10 kids? I think is the question. Am I understanding that?
Yes, it's the data, it's the reporting.
I think it's just having some accountability to the city, that the city is providing this really important resource that we have, which is space. And if that's the case, what does it mean for residents if we're paying our tax dollars for the space? Are they doing the things that we think they're doing? And I think from my perspective, I would love to live in a town that had a little bit more robust theater performances. Like, I'd love to take my kid to a fun circus. I mean, I went to this amazing circus performance with music, and I'd love to see that here, and that's not here right now. So.
And is that what city council's interested in, having more reporting?
Yes, well, it's within the context of the contract renewal, and so the contract doesn't currently have any expectations, about what kinds of things they'll be doing with the space and some of the pricing and stuff. And so if you want to make recommendations based on your expertise in the charter of this group that can help inform those contract negotiations for the next cycle, I think that's the desire. And if anyone's interested, just look, their next performance is on the 21st, the Brahms Clarinet Trio, Saturday the 21st. Want to get a sense of it.
But I think I would love to see more offerings.
Yeah, so I think,
Like, I think from a cultural arts perspective, like having a diverse, eclectic mix of things that families and individuals, like some people do want only classical music, but I think it's nice to have a mix of performers in there. And then I think it is really important when they're providing resources as a partnership to the school and the city that we know how many students they're serving for those music programs.
I think the reporting's important. I'm not sure that I feel like we should get into the determining what they do.
Well, maybe not determining, but
Fair
just
enough.
having them report to us if taxpayer money is, because most grants require that. Like, how many kids are you serving? How are you serving them? How many hours are you serving
And
them?
there's
So what
definite,
what I'm understanding is that we're looking for the impact of the partnership, right? For all of our citizens.
the impact for sure, but there was council voices that were made about the variety of performances. And it's when I was grappling this, because I've had more time to think about it than you guys just got a crash course in it. So we do this thing called the Neighborhood Improvement Grant. And instead of subtracting, it's about adding. Okay, is this for youth? 5 points. Is this for this? 5, is this like contemporary, etc. If it's classical, you get 5 points. It's contemporary, you get 10. So it doesn't feel like it's a negative, where you feel like you're earning points and like, okay, you've partnered with the school, 5 more points. You've partnered with the city to do extra marketing, 5 more points. In a way where it feels a little more like positive, but that's just me coming from like a marketer mind.
When,
Making it happy.
Yeah, no,
When
I
does
hear you.
this happen?
It's adding, it's like, how can we help add to the city?
Yeah,
And
make
show
it not
that
feel
all of
like,
these requests that may feel big are only adding value to their nonprofit and to our city.
Yeah.
But they may feel big, but they also are a positive value for all of us who live here.
when is this needed? Can we think on it for
I
a month?
believe it's at the end of summer.
Okay, so we could think
It'll
on
go
it
back
for a
to
month and
council.
come
Yeah,
back in
it'll go
July.
back to council.
Vanessa, it might also be helpful, in the past, EARTS has provided to council a list of all their performances from the last year. They showed a video to council, and
okay.
they've shared a lot with us that I think for this group to meaningfully engage who aren't familiar with Englewood arts, it might be helpful to give you the context of knowing what might be missing with, that kind of thing. So if we can track that down, that would be super.
And we should be able to distribute it to the group before our next discussion.
Yeah.
Let's
It
do
has
that.
it.
Let you guys marinate. I know I just dropped a lot of information.
How has their performances, their offerings changed over time? I saw, this was maybe 18 months ago, there was still a poster down there for Gordon Lightfoot performed here. And you don't see those types of performances anymore, so I think that would be helpful to see what have they offered in the past and how has it changed.
And I guess too, what are most of their current costs for shows?
I think that's reasonable.
Perfect.
Okay, can we bring that back in July? Right. Moving on to item letter E, survey and questionnaire from Luisa.
Yes. Y'all, I think this is a perfect segue, and we're not going to go through this whole document for the sake of time and to allow all of us to take the time to process the information that's here. But during my onboarding journey, I had the opportunity to kind of understand where we've been, where we're going, and acknowledging that there's been a shift in the way that we collectively work together. There may be a space for us to kind of have a recollective touch point of what's been accomplished. What were the goals intended for 2020, and then also kind of like do a health check like we would our bodies every 5 years of where we are and where we want to go. And so I provided a 3-page document. So the first section of the document is a little bit more of the in-depth reasoning and value behind the committee survey, why it may be beneficial. Also, in addition, new members, myself included, and the members that we have coming up may have the opportunity to also provide their voices. And we could collectively take the results of what we've seen from the work that everyone has done, which, by the way, like if you look at everything that was intended, it's been done and it's being accomplished. So that's phenomenal. And then see what has been accomplished and what else we could add to the bucket. It also allows us to kind of understand with a refreshed purpose of what we may want to do. And then lastly, when it comes to decision making, right? When we're talking about quality and quantity and like pricing, you know, is our top priority to be fair with the artist? Is our top priority impact at the moment? Things like that, so we can engage in that. So if you go to the second page, what I'd like for all of you to do is take a look at what was previously said, take it in. We have our vision and mission that has been established. Ask yourself if you feel there's room for expansion or if it feels perfectly right for the direction we want to go in. I've also put in some priorities that were identified that are very much aligned, I think, what I've been seeing as a new member. And then there is a portion of it where the community was surveyed. This isn't necessarily focused on the community survey at the moment. This is more focused on the committee to kind of just view where our alignment lies and where we have areas to have further discussion for further alignment. And I've also included some growth opportunities, but on the final page, you'll see there's, I think, about 11 questions, if I numbered it correctly, that will allow us to kind of dive into, you know, do we align with the vision? What does uniquely Englewood mean to us? What does Englewood mean to us as citizens, like describing it, and much more. And here, I want us to take a second and pause because we could go in depth and add so many more questions if we wanted to, but do we have to? And that's the question I leave to all of y'all. If you have any questions you want to add that may be valuable, please feel free to send them to whoever will be building this on the branded template, okay? And then once it's ready, whoever, I think Andrea or Lucia, will send it out to all of us so we could thoughtfully engage. And then the next steps would be, we would take this information collectively and share it and have it as a resource for all of us to just pull it out when we need it, when we need realignment, and find agreement amongst ourselves.
Yes. Are we at some point undergoing a strategic plan? So,
Yeah, we are. I mean, this will play in really nicely with just starting that process and kicking it off. Yeah.
cool.
And we could just, to your point, this would be great to just add to any of that building that you guys are doing already in the back end, which we know you guys are going to share with us later.
Yeah.
You know, having that collective vision could probably help.
Yes, for sure.
Great.
And any questions or any comments at the moment?
Thanks, Luisa.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And we'll be building the survey, sending it out to the commission members, including the new commission members that will start in July. So they'll review it and provide their feedback too for that first meeting.
Do we have access?
Yes, it's on,
I don't see
it wasn't linked.
Yeah, we had some issues with attachments.
Oh,
It'll be
okay.
updated and sent out.
Okay, great.
After the meeting.
My
I
email
saw
was
that.
very wonky this week, so.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's just not linked to that, so I was.
Okay, got it.
Let's see.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody, I have to teach at 7 over at Swallow Hill, and we have several things left. I could probably be a few minutes late, but can we go on to the South Broadway Revitalization Project?
Yeah, this was, and this can go by quickly for sure. Where is my PowerPoint? Hold on one second to look at my crazy downloads here. For the South Broadway Revitalization Project, so we had our open house, and that was back in May. And from that, I wrote down all the topics that we wanted to address in the art strategy for the corridor. That includes sculptures, murals, cabinet wraps, creative crosswalks, art events, space activations, pole banners, bus stop art, and just overall art installations. And then results from the open house, the majority of people loved the murals. Second were sculptures, then median art. I feel like I did not mean to put installations. I meant to put median art, and I apologize about that typo for number 9. Median art, cabinet wraps, pole banners, creative crosswalks, etc.
Great.
So obviously everyone loves murals. So I have a meeting with residents on Tuesday, June 17th from 5 to 6 p.m. I'm gonna have it in the library. We're gonna be card storming. So I'm going to be giving them a question and they're gonna write down their ideas and then we're gonna sort cards on the wall so we can get some answers to these questions. And I'm gonna walk through these questions super quickly. Question 1 will be, what is your overall vision for public art along South Broadway? How can it enhance the corridor's identity and character? Question number 2, what specific types of public art would you like to see and where along the corridor would be ideal locations? And then question number 3, should public art in this corridor aim to be thematic, where it's representing something specific, goes along with branding, or should it be one-of-a-kind art pieces for the corridor? So those are my 3 questions for the group, and I will obviously tell you how that all pans out at the July meeting, but are there any other considerations that I should put for this meeting? No? Those 3 questions seem good? Easy enough?
How many people do you have?
Right now I have 6.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that grows. But yeah,
And lastly, how was the last one? You guys had a meeting for the South Broadway.
the open house.
Yeah.
It was really good. I was like consistently talking to people from that entire time period.
It was pretty busy.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
Kyle was there. So it was very successful, and I think people are really excited about this project. So.
Do you want on your, the arts, that group, do you want representation from our group?
Oh, yes, thank you, yes.
Okay.
I can send out, well, is anyone interested in being in the strategy group?
So
Depends on time.
I'm interested, but I have been advocating pretty hard for South Broadway revitalization, so I don't know if it's better for me to support from that or to support as a cultural arts.
I think it would be helpful to have a voice from cultural arts there, just
I think I
if
can
people
probably
have
be there that day.
questions.
Depending, yeah. I
Yeah.
can definitely be there that day.
Okay,
Depending on other times throughout the summer, it might get harder as we go along.
Yeah, and that could be a backup as well, depending if it doesn't work with your schedule, I'm happy to.
And what
If
day
it
is
aligns.
this Wednesday?
it's Tuesday, June 17th, 5 to 6 p.m.
I'm available as well needed.
Okay. I'll just, how should I do it?
I mean, I'm happy to come as a resident or cultural arts. I just know that for me, it's like personal, like I live on South Broadway and I want
Yeah,
revitalization, so.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I need to put on one hat or the other.
5 to 6. 5 to 6. It's a very quick meeting. Maybe I'll send out like a sign up.
Yeah.
Okay.
See if 2 people want to come.
And I'm happy to come, and like I said, I'm happy to come as non-cultural arts, just as a citizen who wants more art on Broadway, but I'm also, you know, I feel like there's 2 different hats going on for me.
Yes, I know. What I don't know is, can 3 of you be in the same place as
You
one?
can't, you just have to post it.
We just have to post it.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
would
we
just
have
have
to
to
post
post
it.
it.
And we can be there, as long as we're not
We
functioning,
got time.
And which may be,
talking business or.
you may get more people to show up, so.
It's true.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do a sign up. And then just let me know.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry, everybody, I have to go.
I know, I feel so
That's
bad.
okay. No worries. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
You still have a quorum, probably, correct?
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we have 2 people online, never mind. We do.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Take care. Thanks.
Kyle, are you leading the meeting now?
All right, I guess I'm waiting.
You're good. I'm sorry, I didn't have my stuff together here. Next is traffic cabinet ramps and crosswalks update. Not too much of an update, I'm hoping to have a better one in July. But from what I found out, stamps are not possible. What goes into pricing is complexity of the design, the amount of colors, and overall application process. They have a process where it's like sheets, like where it puts down a sheet, it thermoplastics to the street, and then they can install it that way. But honestly, it was so hard to get in contact with these crosswalks people. I kind of want to invite them to the July meeting and see if they can put time in their schedule for that.
I'm just really stressed about the cost of these crosswalks for the longevity, just knowing how quickly they're tore up. I just am curious if there's another way to beautify the city with that money that's in the heart of what we're doing, but maybe isn't I don't know. I'm open or having them come speak, but I just am like, if we're talking $100,000, like.
You could install a crosswalk one day and a pipe burst beneath that street the next.
Yeah, it just, to me, I don't even know if it's worth the investment and the other ways we could spend the money. Like if we're looking at revitalizing Broadway and like sculptures was up there, I think is a higher ranking. Like maybe we get more sculptures because we'll get more longevity out of a sculpture than out of a crosswalk.
Yeah, and the one thing I don't know about is like it's a direct fund and it's specific to wraps and crosswalks.
So
But that's
okay.
something that would go back to council.
Yeah, it would have to go back to council to like reallocate those funds.
But it's a really good point that I think people at your June 17th meeting need to understand that if they ranked crosswalks really high, they should know they'll typically last 3 to 5 years.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky.
And they'll dull.
If you had emergency repairs, then you're starting from scratch. But
Yeah.
they should
Or-
just understand those things.
Or have half a crosswalk,
Yep.
right? But just have some.
What would it take to get it back in front of council and propose some other options like murals or other artistic
For that fund.
endeavors?
I'll ask, because I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I can ask if there's a way to reallocate those
Or
funds.
even add a third item or something that
Yeah.
we could choose that isn't just
'Cause
perhaps potentially, like, if we did want to do a crosswalk, maybe it could still be in the fund.
And I do
potentially.
think it would be something like curious, like what could we do that's beautifying? And I do know we have a lot of murals, so I almost hesitate to go murals again, but
That's
like,
just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
totally. But I mean, like, is there something else that somebody hasn't thought to decorate, like a light post or something along those lines, or creating more sculptures, but like, or even the median art, like the medians that you were showing, like painting those medians all the way down
Yeah.
is so different.
Yeah.
But what could we do to spend that money that would be really cool, but possibly add longevity if we're gonna spend that kind of money for the city? I know all our crosswalks have either worn or they've gotten tore up, and I just, for the amount of money, yikes.
And no pun intended, but maybe we wrap that funding in with wayfinding and placement.
Yeah.
And like,
And just,
how far
it's
should
just
that
under
go?
that umbrella.
Just
Yeah,
make it
like
more impactful that way.
Yeah, it would be like a designated art fund out of wayfinding placemaking. Yeah.
Like that.
I like
Yeah,
that too.
I'd be open to other suggestions, and I'm happy to move away from crosswalks, just because I think we've done a lot of investigating, and it just, to me, for what we're paying, the longevity's not there.
And there's no other company, they're the only company that could provide crosswalks.
We've asked that question. We've been told, no, that there really isn't, but we were gonna investigate.
And I have to be honest, there's a group of citizens right now who have been advocating for crosswalks to schools, and they cannot get it because there is no funding. And I find that if we can't get kids to school safely, but we can spend $30,000 for crosswalks for artists, like that doesn't seem like we're doing the citizens right by what they're asking for versus, that's
And I
my
think-
2 cents.
And it's funny that you said the wrap for the light poles, because if that's something we could do, that'd be equally as impactful in the same space as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious about like looking at other cities too and see like what creative things they've implemented on their corridors. Like maybe we could.
Because those medians, like the way you had them painted, and I was like, I've never seen that. That's really
Yeah.
cool. That would be so fun. Let's spend money there.
I'm also curious what other ideas the EDDA kind of had for that area that they kind of worked through last summer as well, that maybe we have some sort of bank already of ideas that we could kind of like look at potentially, because there were a lot of different things that were presented for that, so maybe there's something there too.
Yeah, maybe we could invite Hillary to one of these meetings.
Yeah, we definitely should.
Maybe July, just
Yeah.
to see what other ideas maybe we could present to council.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I'll look into like what the process is too. See if it's even anything that we should be worried about. Okay, but that's all I have. July meeting, I'll like set the call for artists for the traffic cabinet wraps for the next round, and I'm gonna try to nail down the locations that Steve Ortega wants to prioritize for that. And I might leave off South Broadway corridor because I want us to like make a call about maybe we want to do a themed traffic wrap call for that specific corridor. So I'm just gonna ignore the corridor for a second.
Okay.
All right, median art. Lovely, lovely median art. Sorry, I just went fully
Keep
through.
going,
There's
please.
a lot to go through, you're good.
Okay, so Debbie presented last time about potential locations for Lunar Hampton, Rainbow Point. Obviously, we have the South Broadway Revitalization Project. With this, we have to wait for the median art to get installed. Not entirely sure about permitting. And they're obviously doing construction around there too, so it might be a little chaotic until fall 2026. So fall 2026 is when complete streets will be done, and then we can place artwork in the corridor.
And it is our right of way with regards to permitting.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I still get nervous about if we are doing heavy construction there, maybe we don't put artwork in yet, just in case trucks hit it or, so that is an option for sure. And again, it comes back to the fact, do we want thematic art that we're hand selecting specifically for the corridor from feedback from residents? So this might be an iffy one. Next one is that free art pad. It was where there was previously an MOA piece in the city center circle, so we have that art pad available. And then we also have these locations in the city center circle as well, but this, we would need to add an art pad too. They're around $400 to install an art pad, so it's not too bad in terms of expenses. And then the Southwest Greenbelt was suggested last time. Talking through it further with parks, there are considerations with like floodplains and maintenance and permits and art pads and like just working through, maybe we want to have an art walk, but like what does that look like in terms of, do we lease the artwork out? Do we place it? Do we lease some? Do we buy others? So that might be a little bit more that we have to discuss with these art walks. So we have Southwest Greenbelt. Another one that was presented was Centennial Park, potentially adding art pads throughout the circle around the lake. So it's kind of like an interactive art walk around the lake. Again, this would be more discussion, but this is opportunities for sculptures. I have heard back from Debbie that the artist is frustrated and wants the artwork placed, specifically Rainbow, I believe it's Rainbow Point specifically. So ideally, we would figure out a location to put these two artworks for now, and we can always move them if we deem it fit in the future. But how are you guys feeling?
I just want to see it. I want to see both of them. Really bad.
Yeah.
If we already have an art pad and we have this discomfort coming from an artist, and our goal is to support artists and arts in Englewood, I think we may want to move forward with the art pad for here.
I agree.
Now, rushing into putting both of them in the same spot, I don't know if it's necessary. If we could maybe take some time to potentially place the other one in the other locations we're talking about, that'd be great. So we could satisfy the desire that we all have to see this art piece immediately.
Yeah.
And then build for the other ones in the other spaces, if that makes sense.
And Rainbow Point has been waiting way longer at this point, I think.
Although I do think the art pad in front of the other building would take a minute. I don't think that would be a holdup. They could probably do that right away.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am kind of attracted to this only because that's where the Student Art League of Denver and Redline, isn't that where they are? And so I'm like, it would be kind of fun to have a sculpture on a walkway since there's a fair amount in that circle right now.
Mm-hmm.
So part of me is kind of drawn to this. I'm not held to it, but I just think that might be kind of a fun place for it. That would be different for people to see art because, my one worry is we keep putting art in the same place. for sculptures, and it would be nice to have like, even though it's not really that far from all the rest, it feels a little bit like a different spot. I don't know.
Is that the door to the art students like and red line?
It is
Or is
right,
it further down?
it's
toward
further
Nixon's?
down towards Nixon's. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could be a really cool spot for Rainbow Point, because you would be able to see it as you're driving past, whereas if you put it in the other one, you would not be able to see it unless you actually
Yeah.
came in to the circle, kind of.
Are you talking about this pad for Rainbow Point? Or this
No.
pad? This one?
That one,
This one.
yeah. That would be my personal preference, just because you do kind of have to walk into the circle to see the other one. More so.
Isn't this one tucked in the back though?
It is, I
Is
can
it?
do Google
It's on the
Maps.
side.
Oh, I keep looking
Yeah,
at
I don't think it's by Nixon's, I just don't want you to.
It's not by
Oh, it's
Nixon's.
It's not by Nixon's,
Oh, okay,
it's
so it's more in the middle.
hidden, yeah, it's more
So it's
tucked.
close to the
It's-
other
It's
one.
nice,
Yeah.
it's right like, coming off the light rail down those stairs.
Oh.
So if you
the
come
other
down, if you're
direction.
like looking down and you come
It's
down.
by the watermelons then.
Yeah,
Yes.
kind of by the watermelon.
Okay, so it's tucked back. It's even farther back actually than the other pad.
It is, right?
Yeah.
On computer, we're not gonna crash out. It's like back here.
Yeah, okay,
Oh,
never mind then.
Never
This
mind.
is
I thought it was
presenting
closer.
skills.
I thought it was more in front of
It's
the-
what?
Great presenting skills.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you for the map.
Yeah, no, it helps me. So then, this is the art pad right here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that one is like a little bit
Yeah,
more.
I was imagining it on this door
I
right
was
there.
too. I was thinking the other.
Yeah.
And the tall one to the north right, that's gone. Not that, sorry, right beside that
This
one.
one?
Yeah, that's no longer there.
That's the empty one, correct?
Yeah.
That's like an empty garden bed kind of right now.
So it
But
would
yeah,
be
that
the
other
pad.
one is right towards, west.
It needs a
left.
pad, right?
I'm not,
That is just, I think, a garden, that they're
Yeah.
just leaving as a garden.
Got it.
I think
But I
my
just
main
meant
priority is getting it out there. And here's like one thing about this pad, because I'm thinking of the quickest path forward, is that we do a lot of summer events there, so it
Yes.
will be seen, right?
It would be seen. We have some Sunset Concert Series there. We have First Fridays there. We obviously have second Saturdays of people going to Red Line. And then it's also, you know, people getting on the train.
And Celebrate Englewood is there now too.
Yeah, Celebrate Englewood.
If we could get it in by all of that, I think that'd be great.
And if the investment is worth it to move it to the other portion of the map, which I think is gonna be to the right, am I correct?
This guy?
Yeah, where's the
It's
other
right
pad?
here.
Oh.
Which
It's a dead
Sunset Concert
tree.
Series would see
Yes.
it quite well, being there too, so.
But I was thinking more like it was, I was thinking it was more in the walking paths, you know?
Mhm.
So I think knowing that, I like it being in the green where it's already set up.
So Rainbow Point specifically in the city center circle. And then Lunar Hampton will continue to find places,
Yeah.
is what I'm
And
hearing.
I think too, I will be interested with how the discussion goes for Broadway. But I think maybe getting it here, and then if down the road we want to move it, because we still want
Yes.
meeting art, we can look at that, but at least it has a home and it's being displayed.
Exactly.
And from what Debbie said, it's very lightweight too, so moving it, if we did find a better spot for it in the future, wouldn't be that challenging because it's tiny.
Is there a high cost of moving it or low cost?
I don't know because it would be the Parks or Public Works team. So I can ask.
Yeah, I wouldn't think there'd be a significant
I don't think it
cost.
would be that significant.
Unless it's drilling it down, that would be the only.
Let me,
This little,
Yeah.
Rainbow
yeah, they
is
said
tiny.
2 installers and that's completely fine. Let me look and just
Other
make
one's a
sure.
lot bigger, like
Debbie
wider.
specifically
I think
said
it would
Rainbow.
be heavier too.
And if we don't like it there, right, we could always move it to the second location.
But that's what I'm saying, like we have, sounds like we have some flexibility, but I think it will be visible there. I just was thinking like if we could ever have like, you know, in some cities, they actually have sculptures along their sidewalks. It would be nice to have some of that here, but I think that goes hand in hand with the redevelopment as stuff continues to emerge.
Oh, she just said one of the median art artists. I thought she said Rainbow Point. I
Well,
apologize.
I mean, it's the easier one to place,
Yeah.
I think, at this point.
Okay, well, we can place Rainbow Point, at that pad, and then July, I'll look at other options for us that maybe have more visibility.
And so I was like, we could talk about placing the other one at that back if the lunar.
I think I'll just like site search and see if I can find another option for that.
I'm just curious if there's any like over kind of on Nixon's walkway or even on Broadway, if there's any like pads that we could put.
Yeah.
Or like beds that we could put a sculpture pad in. And I still think it's worth down the road, maybe not for these two pieces, but I do think an art walk with sponsored art or like
Yes.
something like that would be really fun down the road to talk about. Like, I don't think we should roll that out maybe for these two pieces,
Oh,
but I think
definitely
like
not.
creating some sort of vision for that in the future could be a really neat thing for Englewood.
Yeah, no, I definitely think we should. I was thinking in my head it would be 2026 to make that plan.
Oh, yeah.
But the other part of that would be, we have Renew and Recreate happening right now in all of our parks. So it might be something where we're planning and maybe we can debut it once Renew and Recreate is good. And
That's fine. I just think it's a cool, I think it's a cool concept, so I don't think we should totally let go. Like, if there was a place to put an art walk.
Yeah.
That could be a special thing down the road, especially if people wanted to purchase art to put in the park as like memorials or whatever.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of neat.
Yeah.
And to the theme of everything we've been saying, like we could build the building blocks and like just grow into that space later when we have more capacity to
Yes.
focus on it.
Exactly. We have two more items on the agenda. One's wayfinding placemaking, and I apologize, my computer just shut off.
It's okay, I can get through this pretty quick. Councilmember Newton-Camp asked me to remind everyone about Englewood this weekend.
Yes.
Saturday from 1 to 7 p.m. So again, she just wanted me to remind you.
You need a ticket.
You do need a ticket.
And
Correct.
there's a resident discount.
Yep, and all that information is on their website at swallowhillmusic.org/Englewood.
I believe Martin's making it, like, I think Martin's a part of it.
So quickly on, I've got an update on the bridge artwork project. The RFPs are due tomorrow. I think we're gonna have some pretty decent interest in those. We did a pre-proposal meeting, we had 2 companies show up, but I know there was at least 3 companies that will bid this project that didn't even attend that. So one thing that we determined through that meeting is that we're not going to restrict the medium for that project. So while we asked about paint and vinyl, it was suggested that we consider including dimensional or 3D elements. And we think that's gonna have a longer lifespan, so we're not sure cost yet, but we did leave that as an alternative that they can bid a different medium, so we're excited to see those. When we see the proposals, we're gonna look at a mix of cost, design, quality, durability, and value. I get concerned about these bridges the same way we're concerned about the crosswalks, because we're told 5 years, is gonna be kind of the maximum. But that could also be an opportunity to change out the artwork. So we'll consider all of those things. We'll be bringing the proposals back to you all to give us feedback. We've already heard some preemptive concerns from CDOT about the colors. One of the, I think it was Harmonic Media, had reached out to CDOT already, and so they had seen the proposed artwork and they were concerned about color. So I'm trying to set up a meeting with our staff and myself so that we can really ask them, okay, you won't allow this, what will you allow? So we're hopeful. They did not say you can't put this on a bridge, or it's really more about the color. So we'll see where that goes. We'll have an update at the July meeting for sure. And so the next steps, we'll review those submissions and then coordinate with our internal partners and CDOT on design viability. And again, once the contractor is selected, we'll be bringing that back to you. And then one final wayfinding update, the IGA amendment with Englewood Schools that I spoke about at a previous meeting. was approved at the Monday council meeting. So these are for the shared message boards that you see down in Civic Center Park. So there'll be 3 of those with shared messaging, Maddox, Clayton, and Wood High School. So that's my update.
Last thing is second Saturday schedule. I just wanted to make sure we were all good. Kyle's taking 5 to 6 p.m. on the 14th. Luisa, you're taking 6 to 7. And that is at Continuum Art Studios. And then July 12th, Kyle, you're taking 5 to 6. And Luisa, you're taking 6 to 7, and that's at N Collective Gallery at Easel. And then the only other sign up we have is September 13th at Seesaw Gallery, 5 to 6 p.m., Kyle. And then I put everything in your Google Drive, so you can see it too.
And can I take a snapshot of that too? 'Cause I know
Yes,
it's gonna
of
send me a
course.
reminder.
I know, I'm wondering if I should attach it to the agenda, but then it has your Gmails on it.
Oh, thank you.
So
Appreciate that.
I didn't want to do that. That's all I have.
Meeting adjourned. 7:20.
Perfect.
Do you need a second?
Okay, I was just gonna ask
Oh,
if everybody is like good for next month, because I think I might be traveling, that, the week of our meeting, so I just wanted to check in. 'cause
Oh, yeah,
in the
July-
past we've moved it,
Actually,
so
we need to
can
look at
afford-
that real quick. Sorry, meeting is mostly adjourned.
July 2nd is the next meeting.
I will also be gone for sure.
Okay.
We historically have not always done the meeting the week after
Oh, okay.
for the 4th of July because so many people are out of town. But I guess the question is if that works for folks. I guess it's like this meeting and then the New Year's Christmas meeting is the other one where it's like we end up moving.
Can we email about it
Yeah,
and just see if we would even potentially have a quorum, because I'm like definitely not gonna be around.
Yeah, I should be able to send out an email.
I guess the other question, how we've also done it is if, oh, they're already, never mind, we got an email out. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get an email out.
Yeah, because we could vote to move it or we could
Yeah.
see if you have a quorum.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
Can we
y'all.
do that over email though? Can we potentially move it over email?
I think we could maybe send out like a doodle poll. Yeah, maybe like a poll, maybe. Let me look into that.
Because
I
we've
know,
always
that's-
done
I was
it
about
in
to
the
say-
meeting before.
I know.
It's not involving money though.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a
Right.
vote to change the
Yeah, it's
date.
business.
Right,
yeah.
just because that's
Yeah.
like a set date.
But I can, let me ask Debbie about procedures with that, because I know sometimes it's also sent out in like the agenda